Hello everyone and welcome to a new tier list where I rank every Nissan Nismo car. Aside from all the various racing cars, because I feel like that would unnecessarily bloat out the tier list, especially as a lot of them are quite similar, like there's various iterations of the GTR, GT500. But if you'd like to see me rank them, just put it in the comments and I'll do it. And if you want to see me do this for other brands or performance sub-brands like BMW M or the like, just put that in the comments as well and I'll do it. So yes, let's just get on with it. So let's start with our first car, the Nissan Sentra Nismo. Now the Sentra is Nissan's smallest saloon car that they make in America. Although I don't think they make it now, and they certainly don't make the Nismo version anymore. This was the only generation to get a Nismo. There were performance versions of other Sentras. I think they were called the SER V-Spec ones. I think I made a couple of those, but yes, this is the only Sentra Nismo. And I think it's quite a decent car. I mean, I don't know as much about it as I would something like a Mondeo ST220, which we did get in Europe and the UK. I think it actually might have just been the UK with the ST220, although I could be wrong on that. But yes, the Sentra. About 200 horsepower is just a fun little cheap performance car. I think I'm going to put it interesting. Cheap performance cars, something that we're really lacking nowadays, because performance cars are either very, very expensive or simply non-existent. It's just replaced by boring, generic, copy-paste electric crossovers, and it's quite depressing. But yes, we need more cars like this. Unfortunately, not going to get any more of them from Nissan, likely, because they seem to just be intent on making this, the Orion Nismo, which is dreadful. But yes. Next car, the 350Z Nismo, the original one, which actually is more like an aftermarket package because, again, it feels like an aftermarket package and it actually voided the original Nissan warranty if you applied it to your car. So yeah, that says it all really. But in terms of the way it looks, I think it adds a much needed little bit of aggression to the 350 because it's quite a sort of smooth, not elegant, but it's just a fairly standard looking, not overly scary sports car, which is quite interesting because, I mean, the car itself, it does have a bit of a wild side. It's quite tail-happy. It's not exactly a track car or a GT car. It's just a fun car, and they've got a bit of a bad reputation nowadays for being takeover cars, but I don't know, I think they're still quite good, especially with that excellent VQ V6. And yes, this is just an improved 350, and I think I'm going to put it in cool. And for the 2007 one, it's better, but I don't think it looks quite as good. But it is a better car. Again, it improves the 350 dynamically even further. But it's not the best 350 Nismo, because that goes to the S-Tune GT, which is a special edition to celebrate that Nissan are bringing the 350 to the GT500 class in Super GT, and it's just the ultimate 350. Best performing one in terms of the way it drives and in terms of how fast it is, and I think it's the best looking one by a mile, especially in this specific paint colour with the white and the red sort of decals on it. And I think maybe this is too high for some people, but I'm going to put it in Sub-Zero. I just think it deserves to be there because it's the best version of the 350, which I think is a very good car. But yes, I think I'm putting it. I think that's fair. It might get moved later on, but yeah, this is where it's going for now. Our next car is the Nismo 270R, not the Nissan 270R Nismo, the Nismo 270R, because that's what it was branded as, despite clearly being a top-end version of a S14 Silvia. Now, the S14 Silvia wasn't a particularly brilliant sports car, at least in its base form, because it was more of a cheap coupe designed to compete with things like the Mazda MX-6 and the Toyota Celica. The 270R, though, turned it into a proper track weapon, and really quite a good one at that. Where does it go, though? I think I'm going to put it at the top of cool for now, I think. Yeah, I think that's a good place to put it. Anyway, next car. All the iterations of the 370 Nismo. But yes, the original 370Z Nismo, which was more of a performance package for the 370. And the 370 was never really as good as the 350. I think it looks a lot better, but dynamically it was never quite there, unfortunately. I think it still goes up here in cool, but I don't know. It just never hit the same mark as the 350. It still had a great V6 engine, but I don't know. It just never was able to compete with some of its rivals like the Porsche Cayman. Anyway, this next one, the 2014 one, again comes closer to a full model, but is still more like an aftermarket package. And I don't think it looks quite as good. In fact, I would go as far to say that front bumper is quite ugly. So I'm going to put it below the original 2010 one. And then we get to the two that are true models in their own right. Starting with the coupe, which actually made it to production. This was, again, unfortunately, a missed opportunity, because it was an opportunity for them to turn the 370 into something hardcore. But they didn't really. They sort of managed a half effort, really, and it wasn't quite as good as it could have been. But it's still better than these ones. Again, it's a bit of a shame, really, because this could have been a proper Cayman GTS or maybe even GT4 rival, but again, it was just sort of half-baked. The Cabriolet, though, which I didn't even know existed until I started doing research for this video, they could have made it, and I think it looks absolutely brilliant. I mean, the 370 Cabriolet, I think, is a really good-looking car. I think the car actually suits its own lines better as a cabrio. But again, they didn't make it, and this probably would have been had even worse of a problem than the coupe, because it probably would have been a bit floppy, because convertibles usually are unless they've been properly stiffened. So I don't know. I think it looks good enough, though, where I'd put it above the coupe, to be honest, because it's just a great looking car. I really wish they would have made it, even though it probably wouldn't have been brilliant, but hey, unfortunately, still a concept. Here's something that is brilliant, though. The Nissan Skyline GTR LM road car. GTR LM road car. Yeah, I think it's GTR LM road car. Based off an R33 Skyline, but it's a homologation special, because they entered an R33 Skyline into the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Didn't really have much success, unfortunately, and this also didn't, because they only made one. The homologation regulations only required you to make one. Most other manufacturers made a few to sell to the public, but no, Nissan only made one, kept it for themselves, and it's actually potentially, I think it's slower than the normal R33 GTR, certainly slower than the V-Spec, because it's not got the advanced four-wheel drive system, which is quite funny. And when reviewers drove it, they said it, because the normal R33 Skyline, it was set up around the four-wheel drive system. This, because it was rear-wheel drive, just didn't feel so great. But I really like it anyway, because it's just a weird little bit of Nissan's history, and I think it looks absolutely incredible. I'm going to put it Sub-Zero. But where do I put it, though? Because I find myself preferring the way that this looks, but this 370 is a better 350. I bet I've been doing that constantly. Is a better car. I'm going to leave them here for now. Anyway, next three cars are all GTR Nismos. We've got the original 2014 one, then the 2017 MY17 facelift, and then the final iteration, the 2024. Or actually, I think it might have been revealed 24, then put into production 25. The final ever GTR, the final Nismo. Now, 2014 one, this is when the GTR was at its peak, really. It still wasn't too overly old-fashioned, and they hadn't made the Nismo ridiculously expensive yet. This was for most people peak GTR, really, and I think I'm going to put it at the top of Sub-Zero. Then the MY17 one. This is at the point where the GTR is starting to get a bit long in the tooth and are really quite expensive compared to its rivals, especially this Nismo, which I think was nearing the £200,000 mark, which is McLaren territory. But even then, it is still an improved GTR, and I think it looks a bit better as well, so I'm going to put it here, ignoring the fact that it was a bit ancient by then. And if it was a bit ancient by then, it was prehistoric by the time this final version came out. But I don't mind it really. Everyone said when it was just a dinosaur, it was not modern at all. But I don't mind because I don't like modern cars all that much. And this is the ultimate GTR. Well, maybe not the ultimate GTR. The ultimate GTR is probably one someone's tuned to 1,000 horsepower or something, but that'll blow up eventually. This probably won't. I think I'm gonna put the best GTR into Dream Car. I think. Yeah, I'm gonna put it there. Now for one of the earliest Nismos, and again one I didn't find out about until I was doing research for this video, the Pulsar or Sunny GTIR Nismo. Although I think it is the Pulsar because I didn't run it as a Sunny. But yes, the normal Pulsar, dreadful car, really boring. The GTIR was a brilliant little hot hatch that they used in Group A rallying. But this, the Nismo, was like a true homologation special for that, sort of in the vein of an MG Metro 6R4 or a Renault 5 Turbo 2, but not quite as crazy, but it's still really crazy. It is basically a road-going Group A car, and I'm really surprised I hadn't heard of it, because that's really, really cool concept. They only made about 21 of them, I think, and they're basically in Europe, Japan, States now, because they've been imported everywhere. But yes, where does it go? I mean, it's a Nissan homologation rally car, and you can't really argue with that. Plus, I think the GTIR is a good-looking car hatchback anyway. I think... Well, this might be controversial, but I'm going to put it above the R33LM, just because the R33LM is just really quite flawed in so many ways, which is unfortunate. It's not really something that could be held in the same regard as like a CLK GTR, which again is a shame because then maybe more people would have heard of it, and mostly because I wish they'd have made more than one, but they didn't, so here we are. Now for two cars that absolutely did not deserve the Nismo badge. The Nissan Juke and the Juke Nismo and the Juke Nismo RS, which are both completely and utterly dreadful. I don't care whether reviews at the time said they were somewhat amusing to drive. They're so bug-eyed, ugly, that they are the ugliest car in the world, except the Cybertruck, but we don't talk about that. But I mean, when it came out, it was the ugliest thing in the world, and you see so many of them on British roads. Maybe not the Nismo, but the normal one is just, ugh, I feel sick even looking at it. It's just so awful. And yeah, no, these two go in atrocious. I'm not putting them anywhere else. The RS, I suppose. Well, actually, I forget which one of these two is the RS. I think this one's the RS, actually. No, wait. This one's the RS. No, this one is the RS. Which is slightly better because it's slightly faster. It's a higher trim level, whatever. I hate them so much. They just, look at them. They're just bug-eyed and they're just lumpy and... Like, who styled this? Who thought this was a good-looking car? Like, what a waste of Earth's natural resources to build that, when you could have been using them to build GTRs or a proper 370Z Nismo that was properly tuned for a track-ready thing. Not this. It's made me incoherent. It's that bad. But yes, let's get on to something brilliant. The Nissan... Well, maybe not brilliant, but... Anyway, the Nissan Leaf Nismo RC. Now, I said I wouldn't cover racing cars. I'm adding this because it's not really a proper racing car. It was more of a concept because it never actually raced, I don't think. It was Nissan's idea for an electric touring car. And, I mean, as much as I dislike electric cars, it's still quite a decent thing because it's just a touring car, albeit electric. So I'd probably rank just about every other conventional touring car above it. But for this, I think I'm going to put it below the 370s. I mean, if you told me it was a Leaf, didn't tell me it was a Leaf, I probably wouldn't have guessed it, at least not at the first glance, because it is radically different from the Leaf. It's like, it's low and got the massively wide wheel arches. It's like it is like its own thing, which I find quite interesting. But here's something that isn't really so interesting. It's the Nissan Leaf Nismo concept. And I like this. I don't see why it was a concept because it seems production ready. There must just not have been much interest in it, which is surprising because the Leaf was sort of kick-started the electric car revolution, or was certainly a part of it, and I will never forgive it for that. But anyway, hot version of the Leaf wasn't actually that hot. It didn't even have 150 horsepower. So even if it had made production in this form, it's a lukewarm hatch. It's not a hot hatchback, and it's not going to be as fun as a conventional hatchback either, because it's not got the same raucous little 3, 4, 5-cylinder engines that they usually have. It's sort of missing that. So I'm going to put it in not great, because I think it would have been quite disappointing had it made production, but it didn't even make production. Now this did make production, and is even more of a disappointment. It's the Nissan March Nismo, which is basically a Nissan Micro for those of you who are in Europe, but for the Japanese market and maybe the American market as well, because this photo is from the US market, I think. But yes, this was even worse because it wasn't even a lukewarm hatch. The normal March had about 77 horsepower. It did actually increase the amount of horsepower and improve the handling slightly, but it was only about 100 horsepower, and that doesn't even make it a lukewarm hatch. And unlike things like the Up GTI, or if you're looking even further back, the Citroen AX GT, it didn't have the fun handling to sort of make up for that. It was just a bit of a damp squib of a car, really, and unfortunately that puts it in not great. Yeah, because I'm not going to put it in bad, because it was an acceptable city car. It was just a terrible performance car, so I think putting it here is fine. Now, what is a brilliant car, however, is the Nismo 400R. Now, the R33 is my favourite generation of Skyline, and this is the ultimate R33. I mean, Gran Turismo fans are probably quite familiar with the 400R. It's one of the sort of... I mean, it's not held in the same regard as like the Castro Supra, but it is quite a well-known and well-regarded car if you're a Gran Turismo fan like myself. But yes, it's the best version of the R33 Skyline. It's had performance improvements, dynamic improvements, visual improvements for aerodynamic reasons, of course, but it just makes the car look so much better. I'm not quite sure whether I'm a fan of the wheels or not. I certainly know I prefer the rim style on the normal R33 and the V-Spec, but I don't dislike the ones on here. Now, again, this might be too high for some people, but I'm going to actually put it above the GTR, because when I said the R33 is my favourite generation of Skyline, I actually like, for the most part, the R33 more than the R35. I could hear the comments coming from a mile away, but no, I've said it, that's where I am. That's where I stand on it. Anyway, next car, the Nissan Note Nismo e-Power. Now, this was a Japanese... Well, right, so, the Note, alright? I don't think they sold it in America, although I think they might have sold this version of it, but the Note is a rival for things like the Honda Jazz and the Kia Soul, which they both sold both of those in the US, so I think they might have sold the Note in the US. I've just not heard anything about it, because it is so very boring. In fact, these mini MPVs, they're just really, really boring anyway. And the Nismo version didn't really change that. As I mentioned, it's e-Power, so it's a hybrid, and it's basically just that. It's basically just a top-end hybrid version of the Note. It's not really trying to be a performance car, apart from the way it looks, and it's just really, really sad. It's just a sad, sad car. And I think I'm going to put it in bad, because I dislike the Note anyway, and this just is a fake performance car, and I don't like those either. I've noticed with actually quite a few of these Nismos, they're either just missed opportunities like this 370, or just not proper performance cars like this, the Nissan Serrano Nismo, which is one of these Japanese big van MPV things, and it was actually given some performance and handling upgrades, which actually makes it slightly interesting, I've got to say. I'm going to put it in average, because I'm not the biggest fan of these. I'm going to put it in not great, because just personal preference. I mean, this is just an opinionated tier list. Just personal preference. I'm not a big fan of these Japanese MPVs, these van things, but I do find it mildly interesting that they actually sort of try to turn it into a performance car. They probably put more effort into doing that, into a performance thing, than the Note, which is amusing to me. What isn't amusing to me, and more depressing, is this, the Nissan Ariya Nismo, which is Nismo's latest offering, and it's just a fast electric SUV, and it's just so mind-numbingly boring. It's a rival for things like the Kia EV6 GT, which is equally as boring. It's just it's got no soul. There's nothing fun about it. It's just a fast SUV, and that's about it. I really, really hate it. I hate everything it stands for. But I'm going to put it above the Dukes because it looks ugly, but it's not as ugly as these Dukes. Even though the Dukes are probably now what. As they're the Duke Nismos, I'm going to put the Ariya below it. I'd probably put the normal Duke below the Ariya Nismo, but yeah. I've not got the Nismo G... No, sorry, not the Nismo. The Nissan Duke R here, because that's not technically a Nismo, even though it really should be, because it's a GTR with a Duke body over it, but yes, it's not here, is what I'm saying. Now, next car, the Nissan Patrol Nismo. Now, the first one was only available in the Middle East. This one is also only available in the Middle East, although they are saying they're going to bring it to the States. But what they are is basically some brick walls with a V8 attached. This one 400 horsepower, this one I think 600 horsepower. And I don't like them at all. I don't like these massive SUVs, especially ones that are trying to be performance cars, because they're failing quite miserably. I'm going to put them... I mean, they've got a V8, so I think that makes them deserving of being placed above this Nissan Note. But yeah, they're just not great. And yeah, I'm not personally a fan of SUVs anyway, as you might know if you've seen all my other videos. But yes, next car, Nissan R32 GTR Nismo. Now this is the top end R32 GTR, above the V-Spec, and where do I put it though? Where do I put it? Because, I mean, the R32 is my right, for the Skylines, my favourite's the R33, then it's like mix of R35 and R34. I can't really decide actually, because I do like the R32 as well. I think I'm going to put it above the 350. I mean, this car is Godzilla. That's what it was named. I mean, actually, the true Godzilla is the Group A Skyline, not all the other ones, not the GTRs and the like. It was the Group A Skyline because it was the one nicknamed Godzilla after it was so dominant in Group A racing. I think it won every single race it entered before everyone banned it because it was too overpowered. But yes, this right. Nissan R34 Skyline GTR Nismo V-Spec. No, wait. No, it's... What did you name it? It's the V-Spec Z-Tune. Now this is the ultimate R34 Skyline and the final version of the R34 Skyline before they focused all their efforts on producing the R35 GTR. And I always feel like I shouldn't like it as much as I do because they are overrated in terms of real life and what people think of them. I mean, they're really, really good cars, but they're a bit overrated. But even then, I think I'm actually going to put it in Dream Car below the R35 GTR. Yeah, I think that's where I'm going to put it. Now, it's an interesting story behind this, as well as it being the greatest R34 Skyline. When they wanted to make them, I believe Nissan bought back 20 of them to turn into this, and they were all painted a certain colour. I think it was this silver. But one owner, they wanted it in Midnight Purple 3, and Nissan said no, but then they kicked up a fuss and it became Midnight Purple 3. Now that one car is being sold for over millions of dollars in auctions now, which is far too much for a Skyline, but I think it looks really, really good. I'm not justifying that ridiculous price, but I love that midnight purple skyline so much. It's a great colour, and it really suits that Z-Tune. Now, our final car, the Nissan Z Nismo. I used to call it the 400Z, but no, that was wrong. It's like calling the Ferrari Enzo the F60, which is just, again, not what it's called. Now this, like its older brother, the 370, was a missed opportunity, because the normal Z was sort of more towards the GT end of being a sports car, or it was like more soft and comforting, but I mean it was decent. Now this is they definitely tried to turn it into more of a track car, but then they didn't fit it with a proper manual gearbox. Now I'm sure there's all the arguments that this is faster and yes, but if you want to be a proper track car, you put in a proper manual gearbox, or at least have the option. Could you imagine like the Lotus Exige without the option for a manual gearbox, or the Caterham 7? I mean, maybe not that extreme, but like the Porsche Cayman GT4. Could you imagine that without the option of a manual? You couldn't, could you? Which is why this is, unfortunately, another missed opportunity. But the looks of it are really growing on me, actually. I think I'm going to put it in between the 370s. But yes, here's a tier list for you. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? If you'd like to suggest more cars that I may or may not have missed, or if you'd like me to put those racing cars in, or just any other of these tier lists, or if you'd like to talk to me about the cars, or again, if you agree or disagree with me, put it down in the comments below, and I respond to every single comment. And yes, hopefully you've had a great day, or night, or evening, or wherever you're at. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.